In all our lives, we have, in some way, been a part of a fundraiser. Whether it was a jogathon back in middle school, whether it was in Boy Scouts, or if you're a part of a sport, you kind of how to help out your organization by passing out flyers, doing certain things, or even Girl Scout cookies, which I all know we love to do. But there's one organization that stands out the most to me. One organization that takes out a bigger step than it wants to receive one. One that helps out more people than it actually needs. That is the Carolina Panthers. Today, I would like to highlight the nonprofit organizations of the Carolina Panthers by their Keep Pounding Foundation, by their community grants, and the individual players that played. First off, the biggest organization that helped out was the Keep Pounding Foundation. The Keep Pounding Foundation started off in 2003. Back in 2003, the Carolina Panthers went to their first Super Bowl, but one of their lead middle linebackers, Sam Mills, did not feel too well. He had to go to the hospital, and he wanted to make sure he was 100% to play the game. But before that, he went to the hospital, and then the doctor said that he was diagnosed with cancer. But that did not stop him from playing in the Super Bowl. He wanted to do as much as he can for his team and for his fellow players. Even though the doctor said he had 3 years to live, he kept telling his team kept coming up to him and saying, like, what are you gonna do if anything's gonna happen to you? Like, we don't want anything to happen to you, maybe you should go home. Like, it's okay if you're not with us. And he said, no, I'm gonna keep pounding and I'm gonna get through it. And so by that motto, they all live by that motto no matter what. Keep pounding and living through it. But besides that, he had 3 years to live, but he actually lived up to 10. So he beat the odds and he kept living and he helped out and he actually became a coach with Carolina Panthers. The Keep Pounding Foundation was set up after he passed away. After he passed away, they built a monument outside for him, for one of the coaches, to always remember Sam Mills and what he did for this organization. By 2012, the foundation raised up to $22.2 million and helped out with a bunch of other organizations and sparked up no matter what. The movement sparked up other organizations too, such as the community grants. For the community grants for the Carolina Panthers, it helped out not just the community, but the people inside the community as well. It went up to $10,000 the first year, and then after the first year, it went up to $10 million. Each individual player helped out in a certain way too. No matter what, the organization wanted to make sure each person in the community was helped out and each school was funded and everyone had enough money to do certain things in North and South Carolina, even though the Carolina Panthers are North Carolina Panthers. The goal was to reach each individual school and to reach each individual organization outside of the Carolina Panthers organization, but they just also wanted to make sure everyone was set in their own ways. And then after that, they were funded not just by the organization, but they were also funded by each individual player too. And each individual player, in a way, helped represent the team. The first player I'd like to talk about is Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. He honestly helped out way more than the organization could ever imagine and really think before. Back in his junior year of high school, his mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, which really affected him, and so in the beginning he wanted to help out in a way. But in the way he knew he could help out was by playing football, and his mom always supported him by playing football, so he just kept wanting to do that as well. So in 2012, his first son was born, but what happened with him, he had a heart disease, and Greg Olsen didn't know what to do, he didn't know what to see, but what all he thought is he can use his platform for good, and he can use his platform to donate and help out. So he started his own donation in his own place called Receptions for Receiving. So Receptions for Receiving is for any type of cancer. So no matter what, he helped out, and he made up to $500,240 for the organization. He wants his fellow teammates to always help out as well. And he also was nominated out of all 10 years he played. Out of all those 10 years, 5 of the years he was nominated for Man of the Year. And Man of the Year is for the NFL, they pick out each individual player from each team, and whoever has like the biggest organization too, they honor them and they throw them in dinner too, and then they also want them to be recognized within their community. Another player also, which is a team leader, is Cam Newton. Cam Newton is the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, and his nickname is Super Cam, because no matter what, when he goes in the end zone, he always does this as like Superman, like taking off your cape. So for him, he wants to lead his team, he wants to set an example like Greg Olson. So the way he wanted to do it is he started up a foundation called Super Camp Club, which helps kids for activities, helps kids that don't have that much education and not that much schooling. He built this facility where they can come over and then they can learn more, go on the playground too, and if their parents work them more than 1 or 2 jobs, they can easily just drop them off and they have parental supervision and everyone else can help them out, which is very cool and very helpful too for their community. Both these players come from the Carolina Panthers, and both these players too represents them, and both organization too, is that they're both the team captains. So they really represent the whole team, and they really represent how like the Carolina Panthers wants like the team to be represented. In conclusion, the Carolina Panthers not only helps out their community, but also helps out the NFL, and their players also help out, set an example for not just their organization, but for other players to help come in and really make an example. And not just in the NFL, but in the world. Thank you.
So Bryant, your thoughts?
His speech was good. His attention getter, I like it. His thesis statement was very clear. He had really nice visuals which connected to what he was talking about. The only thing I couldn't understand is, like, is it the Panthers organization together, or is it just like a players? Like,
It's the organization, but through the players too, because they represent the organization.
so they're all connected in one.
Yes.
Otherwise, your conclusion was good. You restated what you were doing, or what you're talking about. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I thought the introduction worked very nicely. It sets up the thesis very clearly. There's an excellent preview of what the structure is going to be, so you're solid there. There's a lot of supporting material that doesn't necessarily get cited. I think you need to do a little bit better job of that. But one of the ways that you help build audience interest is by talking about the particular players. You mentioned Sam Mills and Greg Olson and Cam Newton, and you tell a little bit of the stories about each of those people, and that makes it a little bit more interesting to the audience. It's not just about the fundraising, but it's about the people behind the fundraising also and what their motivations are. I think that's perfectly fine. I'm not exactly sure why you picked the Panthers. I assume that other organizations in the NFL, for instance, have similar kinds of things that they do, so maybe a little bit more justification for that. I suspect it has something to do with the team that you root for, that kind of thing. And maybe that would be something else that you could kind of do in the presentation to make it a little bit more interesting, is put some of yourself into the presentation. It's reasonably well organized, and the signposts are okay. You use the visuals primarily to indicate the different points that you're talking about. It's not that they add a huge amount of information. They're basically, telling us here's the section that we're in at any given point. The pictures are fine, but there's not a lot of detail about the amount of money that gets raised or the format that's being used to raise the money in those circumstances. I'm not sure that that's important to visualize, but like I said, the images that you have mostly are just kind of classifying the organizations or the groups that are doing the fundraising within the Panthers more general collective, as we just discovered. I don't know. The name for Olson's group, receiving for reception or receptions for receiving, that just is not good. He needed a better tagline for that. But, you give a nice description of those things. Once in a while you have a tendency to turn toward the screen when mostly it's just a transition thing, which is not a bad thing if it's temporary, but there were a couple of times that it lingered a little bit longer than you would have liked. We're not worried about the delivery stuff too much on this assignment. We'll pay more attention to that down the road. All right, thank you.